G'day and welcome to the Unplayable Podcast for the 2022-23 Summer of Cricket. Now, it's not quite summer just yet, but there is plenty of cricket happening already, and so it's time to get our show off and running for the upcoming season. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Josh Schonafinger, and on this edition of the podcast, we're going to be previewing Victoria's chances in the Sheffield Shield and Marsh One Day Cup competitions. A few weeks ago, Jack Paynter from cricket.com.au and myself spoke to Will Sutherland to check out his team's chances, and we hope you enjoy the chat. Hello and welcome to the Unplayable Podcast. On this week's episode, we've got a Victoria State preview, and I've got two gentlemen next to me who are making their Unplayable Podcast debut. Jack Paynter from cricket.com.au and Will Sutherland from the Victorian State side. Welcome, boys.
Thank you, Josh.
Josh, thanks for having us.
Not a problem at all. Will, talk us through your pre-season. How's it going so far? About a month out from the first match of the season. Talk us through what's been going on.
I've just been plugging away in the indoors, the lads. Obviously, the weather not too conducive to turf wickets at the moment, but it's been good indoors. I think the lads have just gotten out onto turf in the last week or so. So, preparation's been pretty smooth for all the boys. And, I think about 10 or so of us have just headed up to Darwin as well for the T20 comp up here to get some turf practice as well.
How's that been going so far? So a couple of wickets the other night for yourself?
Yeah, not bad. The Renegades aren't going too well, but hopefully we can win a few games. Still got 2 to go, but just awesome to be outdoors this time of year and getting some more T20 experience.
It was a tough season end for you for the Vics last year, unfortunately, and you self-bowled a mammoth 64 overs in the Shield final. Talk us through what that match was like and obviously a 5-day match, and how you pulled up after such a big workload.
Trouble out. Taken at first slip. The young man is gone, and Sutherland is doing all the damage this morning.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing, obviously not getting the result we wanted, but boys put in a decent effort. We were a little sniff there on the morning of day 3, I think it was, sort of turned the tables a little bit, but it was always going to be tricky losing that the first innings points. So great experience for me and a few others to play in a Shield final though, and it just makes me hungry to try and win one in the next few years, and to play a role and bowl that many overs was good and pulled up well. So I'm happy with how the body has been the last few years, and to bowl that many overs in one game is a good sign, I suppose.
Will, what's it take for a fast bowler to, obviously that was the end of the season, but what's it take to recover from a spell like that? We saw Nathan Lyon, he bowled 64 in the Gaul test, in the second test, and that was his biggest innings, and you've matched him, but you've come off 20, 30 paces. What's it take to recover from a spell like that?
Being the last game of the season, not much. Went away to Fiji and recovered by the pool, so that was fine. But I suppose if you were having to front up again, it would have been a bit of a challenge. You just, you do your water recovery and see the physio and just look after yourself as much as you can if I had to play again, but luckily I didn't.
How long were you over there for? Have you done a bit more travelling around while you had some time off, or has it just been one trip and that's it?
I went to Fiji with the missus at the end of the season for a week, which was nice. Port Douglas as well for a week with the fam. So I think good at this stage of my career to be able to do a little bit of travelling in the off season, but I have got an eye on a county season, next UK summer. Hopefully if things go to plan. So good to get some travelling now, but that'd be nice for next season.
And we saw you went to, was it Ballarat as well with Georgia Wareham as part of the Renegades road trip? How was that?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. It was a pretty cold part of the world this time of year, Ballarat and Ararat, but good to see some young kids, and very rewarding to sort of try and grow the Renegades fan base. I'm not sure I could be a primary school teacher anytime soon. It's pretty long days, but it was good fun.
And talk us through that, was there any temptation to go sort of overseas this year and play during the off season, or are you sort of building up to that next year? What's sort of the thinking there?
Yeah, there are a few little opportunities that just didn't quite go to plan. The Sri Lanka A tournament was thrown up to be ready to go, but obviously I chose not to be ready, and obviously I would have been, um, going over there given the amount of injuries that happened. But yeah, that's just the way it is, and the workloads weren't quite high enough to get over for some one days as well. With Essex, but yeah, as I said, plenty of time, and hopefully next season it can work out.
Now back on the Renegades quickly for a second. We hear you've got a bit of exciting news to announce. A bit of an Unplayable Podcast exclusive, if you don't mind. Just tell us what's going on there with the Renegades and yourself.
Yeah, luckily enough, signed on for another year with the Gades, so sticking loyal to the Renegades, and obviously the last couple of seasons haven't been as good as we would have liked, but we've got a great list, and hopefully we can start to turn things around over the next few seasons.
It looks like the squad is building nicely. You've got a couple of new recruits in sort of John Wells and Tom Rogers being announced. How's the feeling around the group? And like you said, it's been a couple of disappointing years, but do you really feel like you can make a bit of a difference with the squad that you're building for this season?
Yeah, for sure. I think they're key inclusions, those two that sort of fill gaps that needed to be filled, and you obviously got the draft coming up as well. So hopefully David Saker can work a bit of magic in that and fill even a few more gaps that we've been sort of missing out on. But the list is there. It's just it hasn't clicked over the last few years. I think lack of confidence probably plays a part. So I think you get a couple wins early and build momentum from there. So hopefully that can happen.
And James Pattinson made the disappointing decision to move on from the Renegades, which means that they need a new leader of the attack. Is that going to be you? Is that something that you want to take on as one of your responsibilities?
I'd definitely love to play, more of a role with the ball. I don't think I'd be taking the leader of the attack title off Kane Richardson anytime soon. But to sort of help him out, he's had to do a bulk of the work over the last few years and just hasn't had the support that he deserves. So hopefully I can try and help him out with a few overs here and there, and as a bowling group, start to get something going.
What are your sort of goals are you targeting for this season? Obviously, a strong finish for yourself for last season. Are you trying to build on that momentum coming into this season?
I think with the red ball, it's just sort of kept going the way I've been going. I'm pretty content with where that's at. I think an area of my game that needs improvement is definitely white ball and death sort of stuff. I think there's opportunities in both for Victoria and the Renegades to sort of step up and take that death bowling position, and with my batting as well coming in and trying to hit a few sixes at the end. So I think that's a big focus, trying to put my hand up and take those roles in both of those teams.
And if you look at the Victorian squad, there are so many young bowlers coming through. Mitch Perry, Brodie Couch, Sam Elliott, Zach Evans, just to name a few. I mean, which of these guys are going to take the next step this summer, do you see? Who's sort of putting their hand up to be the next big thing?
Yeah, Cam McClure is another one as well, who's just played the one game. So if Scotty Boland's not there, or Paddo, it's going to be a massive opportunity for some of those guys. Most have played none or one Shield game, so I really like what Cam McClure was able to do in the last game of the season before the final. He's shaping up to be a very impressive talent, and obviously Brodie Couch has done some pretty good stuff in white ball with the Stars, and he's looking very good again for another good season. So there's two tips for you. Hopefully those boys can have a good season.
And it's again looking like with the tour of India in February and March, it's again looking like Scotty Boland might, if he goes well enough throughout the season, might not be there for the back end of the season. So that'll put a lot of burden on these young guys again. Do you reckon that the attack is ready for that kind of responsibility?
It's hard to tell. Obviously Mitch and myself will have to step up. We've got a little bit of experience now, which is nice, and you obviously hope that Scott can be over there playing for Australia. But yeah, I've got full faith in those guys are looking great in the nets, and they do well at futures and club cricket as well. So McClure, Couch, Zach Evans even. I'm sure that whoever it is can step up and play a role if required at the back end of the season.
And there haven't been too many changes in the lists. At Victoria, you've added a couple of rookies in Campbell Callaway and Ashley Chandrasinghe. But do you think that the squad's there, that you're ready to take the next step this season, and hopefully, obviously made a Shield final last year. They're tough enough to get to themselves. But do you think that the list is there to go that one step further? And who should we look out for this season?
Yeah, I definitely think the list is good enough to get close again, if not win it. You've got, apart from the quicks that might be stretched, you've got some quality spinners, in John Holland and Todd Murphy, Will Parker as well, Tom O'Connell. So any one of those could play, especially if we're playing in Melbourne. You play two spinners there and give yourself a good chance. And obviously our batting's incredibly strong as well, with Marcus Harris, Maddinson, Pete Hanscom, Will Pucovski if he's playing. So Trav Dean won the Shield Player of the Year as well, which a lot of people sort of brush over, but the batting quality is tremendous there. So if our quicks can get the job done and batters can put a score on the board, then I'm sure we can have a great season.
And what about Puck? How's he going during the off season? I think he's in India at the moment, but obviously as a group, you'd be hoping that he can play, if not all of the games this year, a fair few of them.
A huge roar around the ground. A much-awaited debut for Will Pucovski, and he picks up 50 in his maiden Test match at the SCG.
Yeah, he's always in good spirits. He's actually played a bit of a role in our sort of culture development stuff with a new young list, so helping build that and seeing him sort of get involved with the group from a leadership side of things is really good. So he's obviously invested and keen to play when he can, so it'd just be great to see him string a few games together, and you want him to get back to playing for Australia as well, because he's certainly good enough.
And what about your batting, Will? Are we going to see you moving up the order this season?
I'll do my best. I definitely want to bat as high as possible. Mitch Perry with a score of 70 is putting a bit of pressure on me from behind as well, so I've got a bit of work to do there, but it hasn't quite clicked for me so far, but obviously always trying to be a genuine all-rounder and keep chipping away on the batting and try to get up to 6 or 7 as soon as possible.
Now I've been studying the footage, Will. You've obviously got a sister, Annabel, who plays for Victoria and Australia as well. But from my perspective, your bowling actions are both very similar, especially in the run-up and the gather. I just want to ask who copied who there?
I must admit I actually do copy a lot of her sort of gym and strength bowling stuff, so she probably sets a better example than me in terms of professionalism. She's an absolute gun, so we do work together, and maybe we both copied the old man, and that's how we ended up bowling the same.
And growing up, the backyard battles must have been fairly competitive, I would have imagined.
Yeah, definitely was pretty intense, and younger brother Tom as well, so it made it a good challenge always. I'm sure that's how we both sort of got the competitiveness, and she's flying as well, so great to see her doing so well.
Did the old man wouldn't have let you win much in the backyard though?
No, definitely not. I think that's where I've got my competitiveness from. When he did come out there, which was very rare, he certainly put a good showing on for us.
Just on a serious note, having your dad as the CEO of Cricket Australia, or the ACB at the time, what was that like to grow up with? I mean, it's probably hard to compare it to anything because you only had that, but what was that like as a kid? And you got friends talking about cricket all the time, your dad's on TV. Tell us what that's like.
It was different. I think at a young age, it helped me love the game because I'd be able to sneak into the change rooms every now and then and meet my heroes and that sort of thing. So that was awesome. And then you get a little bit older and you start playing senior cricket, and you get these club cricketers rolling around on a Saturday just absolutely abusing you about your old man, and that's the only reason you're playing pathway cricket and that sort of thing. So it had its ups and downs, but he was an unbelievable supporter for me, threw me so many balls, and I think that's no doubt why I'm sort of where I am today because of him.
We've got a bit of a theme coming up in a few weeks. It's called Kit Week. We just wanted, what was your sort of first bat and all-time favourite bat?
My first bat, funnily enough, was a Cricket Australia sort of branded bat, and it actually had a sticker saying only to be used with indoor cricket balls. So obviously Dad got that for free from work and rolled that out for me. So that was my first bat, and then Grey Nichols have been pretty loyal in the last few years. Obviously Stu down there makes some unbelievable sticks. So I had some really good ones a couple seasons ago, and hopefully I've got a few beauties this year as well.
Do you have an all-time favourite? Maybe a Matthew Hayden sort of Gladius or something like that you've always looked up to?
The power bow, I reckon, was an interesting one that I sort of I like the retro stickers. I think might have to get my batting going a bit better to get a call up to use a retro bat, but I do love those old Grey Nichols bats.
Another thing we've been loving is the mullet that's sort of forming at the back of your head there. Talk us through the inspiration behind that, and is it here to stay? John
O'Mello will probably like me to give him a shout out there. We had a little mullet comp last season, so it is a bit of fun growing the mullet. I think it's my best feature of the hair, so obviously make it as long as possible, but it can't be too long. If it gets in the eyes for cricket, that's when it's got to go. So it'll stay at appropriate length, not get too long.
That's when you'll be asking to borrow a couple of Annabel's hair ties, won't you? Gets too long.
Yeah, correct. The headband will come out. Hopefully not.
Yeah, well, we've seen Stuart Broad rock the headband, so maybe that's something you could do as well.
Yeah, I know Zach Evans likes the headband as well. For other reasons, I think he's fading away a little bit on the hairline, so he used it there to cover up as well.
Well, thanks a lot for joining us on the Unplayable Podcast. Really appreciate your time, and all the best for the summer ahead. Hope you kick some goals.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it, guys.
So, Jack, that was Will Sutherland when we spoke to him a few weeks ago now, actually. What do you make of the Vic's chances for this season? They came second in the Sheffield Shield and dead last in the Marsh Cup, actually. So how are they going to fare this season, do you reckon?
I think they'll still have a strong Shield squad. The Marsh Cup last year was a bit of a trial season for them. They blooded a lot of young quicks in Brodie Couch, Cam McClure. So I think they've still got a strong squad. They've kept it together nicely. I think they'll be up there contending again. And the inclusion of Will Pucovski for hopefully a greater portion of the season, along with Marcus Harris, who potentially won't be with that Test squad for the summer. That just strengthens the depth of their squad, and I think they'll be up there again alongside Western Australia, obviously, who've also got a strong squad.
Yeah, you said they haven't really recruited as much, and they probably don't need to because of these inclusions you mentioned. Pucovski and Harrison, basically new additions. They barely played last season, and it was it the season before where they were putting on these 400-run partnerships and the like. So I'm sure the Vics will be super keen to get them back into the side, even though it might come at the expense of some players who had good seasons last year.
Well, that's the interesting one, isn't it? Trav Dean, who is the reigning Sheffield Shield Player of the Year, alongside Henry Hunt. He played in the Shield final because Marcus Harris missed out through COVID. But if Harris and Pucovski are both playing, then where do you fit him in? Do you bat him at 3? Who misses out then? Hanscom bats 4, Madison, and then potentially you're looking at maybe Harper missing out and Hanscom taking the glove. So, it's probably a good problem to have for Chris Rogers. But you wouldn't want to be the player missing out because, you'd hope they'd win a lot of games this year and be up there contending in the final again.
Yeah, absolutely. And if we look at the bowling side of things, it looks like Scott Boland should be able to play the first portion of the season. Is that correct? I mean, he missed so much of it last year.
I think so. It just depends what they do with the Test squad, whether they carry him as the 12th man, the extra quick bowler, because then he'd potentially be out from around the end of November, which I think would mean he'd miss probably 1 or 2 Shield games before Christmas. But after Christmas, it's probably looking like, or after the Big Bash, sorry, it's probably looking like he will miss the majority of those games with the Test tour to India. I can imagine he would be on that. Can't see him.
Yeah.
He performed well in Sri Lanka in the Australia A game that he played, and I imagine he'll have another strong Shield season. So looks like he'll be on that. The other question is around James Pattinson and what he does this year. He's just returned from, well, he hasn't returned yet. I think I saw a Instagram story of him in Italy today, but he's been released from the last month of his county contract with Nottinghamshire.
Right.
He's not playing the Big Bash. He's resting his body. So what happens with him this year and how many games he plays is another interesting storyline with the Vic squad, which in turn opens up a lot of opportunities for their young quicks. You've got Mitch Perry, Will Sutherland, who we chatted to, Brodie Couch, as I mentioned, Zach Evans, Cam McClure, all these young quicks who are extremely talented, but they haven't played without either Boland or Pattinson in the side. So if they're both not there, then it just opens up an opportunity for one of those bowlers to step up and take the leader of the attack role. But it also leaves them slightly vulnerable if they get it wrong and the opposition gets on top of them. So that's probably a storyline to watch throughout the season, what happens with Boland and Pattinson.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating. Another thing that I'll be watching pretty closely is the spin department. Todd Murphy had such a strong finish to last season and then went to Sri Lanka and played really well in the A games there as well. But John Holland is still around. So how do you see this playing out? Are they going to be trying to get Murphy in, or are they going to stick with the tried and tested Duck Holland, who has performed so well over so many years?
It is interesting because you'd think that John Holland is still the number one, given that he was drafted into the Test squad as cover for Ash Nagar, I think, when he had the side injury. But Todd Murphy had a strong A campaign in Sri Lanka as well, and he took 3 wickets on a Friday in an intra-club at the Junction. So he's only getting better and better. And I think they'll be looking for opportunities potentially this season to play them together. They did that at the Junction last year towards the back end of the season against Tasmania. And then from there, it's whether, if Murphy is still performing strongly, whether they do stick with him because he's a longer-term prospect. And, sort of that would kind of be the end of it for Holland, wouldn't it? He's still a strong bowler, considered, up there in Australian calculations as well, but he's not getting any younger, and he's holding back someone like Murphy, who is only going to continue to develop with more game time. So, another one to watch, I think. Well,
Murphy, you spoke about that intra-club match on Friday. Murphy was bowling with a beanie, which I thought was just fantastic to see, even though it wasn't that cold. But what else happened in that match between the Vics on Friday at the Junction Oval?
It was an interesting game. John Holland actually smacked a couple of fours to win the game 9 down for his side. It was quite an exciting finish in the fading light at about 5:30 p.m. But it looked like a slow pitch, a tough pitch, because both sides scored. The scores were around 200 off the 50 overs. Hanscom got 60 odd. Jake Fraser-McGurk got some runs, and other than that, it was kind of starts here and there. Pucovski opened the batting, got 15. As soon as he's looking to score, he kind of spooned to catch the point. And Murphy was the pick of the bowlers with 3 for. And that was about it, really. It wasn't really exciting until it got to the end. But they're actually in Coffs Harbour this week playing against New South Wales, so they've got a few practice matches there against New South Wales, and then next week on Monday, the first second 11 fixture of the year kicks off in Coffs Harbour as well. So,
yeah, right, okay, plenty of cricket coming up for the Vics then. Another thing that I saw on cricket.com.au not too long ago was that there's a potential opportunity for Glenn Maxwell to play a bit of red ball cricket. What's happening there?
Yeah, very exciting. I think someone who is dying to play Test cricket again for Australia and just wants to seize on every opportunity that he can. So there's a potential window at the back end of the England ODIs, which are after the T20 World Cup, where there's a Shield game that starts 2 days after the last ODI, which not sure where it is, but potentially he could get back for that game and then play the following game as well, leading into the Big Bash, which is in early December. I think that's from December 1 to December 4, both in Victoria. So one's at the City Power Centre, one's at the MCG. But yeah, he seems really keen to play. It'll help, if he does well, it'll help push his case for India, which you would imagine he would be on anyway, given he's such a strong player of spin. But yeah, he just, you know what Maxie's like last year. He played, I think it was 3 one-dayers for Victoria when he had a couple of weeks off, and that was, in between planning for his wedding as well. So it's just great to see that, any chance he can get to play for Victoria, he'll go for.
Yeah, it's always great to see Maxwell roll out in the navy blue, and I reckon because there's also a couple of white ball games on that Indian Test tour, that probably helps his chances of getting in that squad or near that squad as well, I would say. So positive signs. Let's hope we see a lot more of Maxwell in the domestic competitions this summer. Jack, before we wrap this up, can we get some predictions? I know you're a pretty passionate Victorian supporter, but where do you see them finishing in the Shield and the Marsh Cup this year?
Marsh Cup, I don't see too much change. I don't think they'll make the final. I think they'll continue with their strategy of blooding their young quicks through there, potentially some young batters as well, and hopefully they can come on and show a bit more than what they did last year. But the Shield, I think they'll be strong again. They've got a pretty consistent squad there, led well by Hanscom, so I think they'll be vying with WA for sort of a place in the final, or potentially taking out the title. The other strong sides are Tasmania. I think they've recruited well, and they've got a stable squad. And then Queensland obviously will start the season well because they'll have Labuschagne and Khawaja both playing, and then once they go to India, that might open up. They have got some reasonable depth as well, but I think those are the 4 sides to watch out for in the Shield, and I think Victoria will be one of those that'll be up there again.
And the players to watch, obviously we know Pattinson is one who could be primed for a massive season with everything else that he's sort of offloaded. We've got Will Sutherland, who we spoke to, who's going to have a great year. Who do you think from the Vicks is going to make a name for themselves this summer?
I think Mitch Perry, he's continuing to develop as well. He said last year when I chatted to him, he was looking to develop his skills with the old ball, because we all know he can swing it both ways. But if he can develop that repertoire where he can get it to reverse swing or just charge in hard and hit the deck for 5, 6, 7 overs with the old ball, that'll add another string to his bow. And then I think Pucovski obviously is going to be really hungry for sustained success, coming back into the side, playing 3 games last year, I think it was, or 2.5 games last year. So I think he'll be eager to get a full season under his belt, and if he does, I imagine he'll be putting his name up in lights again for another Test squad inclusion, and potentially adding to his 1 Test against India from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, let's hope so. Jack, thanks a lot for joining me on this edition of the Unplayable Podcast, and we'll chat very shortly in another state preview.
Sounds good. Thanks, Josh. Look forward to it.